Hi, I'm Dylan.
Martin.
I'm Neil, and this is Youth on Subjects of the World. And
Neil's in his car.
what'd you say, Dylan?
Neil's in his car.
Yeah, I'm in a car right now. I'll be home soon, but it's also really hard to hear, and it's raining, and there are the wipers, so it's a pretty depressing scene. But
Are you in a sad boy music video?
yeah, I'm in a sad music video. I'm just like I feel like all music videos are just nowadays just I love this person and I lost them and now they're gone forever and I'm sad. Feel bad for me.
Are you in a boy band?
Yeah, I feel like I should be at this point.
Neil and the Raindrops is the name of the
Neil and
band.
the Raindrops. That'd be actually a pretty good band. Neil and the Raindrops.
Yes.
It's all depressing and emo and all that.
Yeah.
And Neil could make like a punk rock band called Sadness and Death.
That's not what punk rock sounds like. The best punk rock band names are Temporary Giraffe, Deflated Ninja, Bowling for Soup.
What if it was
There's so many
Regretful
great ones.
Raindrops? I don't know.
That's funny.
Regretful
That'd be
Raindrops.
Groceries for the Apocalypse is a great one.
Groceries for the Apocalypse.
And these
That
are all
actually
just
makes some sense.
all of these are sentences that I've said on a daily basis. I write them down. Like when I say something that I think would be a good band name, I write it down as like a joke between me and my dad. Anyways, so we're Youth on Subjects of the World. We're here to talk about subjects of the world. And something happened in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks or however long it's been since we did one of these. It's actually very exciting. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the North Korea and South Korea meeting?
Yeah. That's pretty nice.
That is pretty
Can you
exciting.
just stop the wipers out of here? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
That is
So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my camera for a second because I'm gonna walk inside the house now. I can walk and talk, but it's gonna be weird to just have all this and it's raining. And I can just leave the camera on, I guess.
Oh God, it's the light. It's the light of God behind you.
I am God.
Okay. So yeah, that happened. That's pretty cool.
Oh God, so much water.
I particularly don't have much to say about that, unless you guys want to add. Like there's not really much I know about it. The situation.
So it's supposed to be a historic meeting because the countries are still actually technically speaking at war. Because there was an agreement signed to basically it was like a glorified ceasefire and the demilitarized zone was established, but there was never a peace treaty or anything like that signed. So technically the countries are still at war. So that's pretty insane. So it's actually really interesting and coming together is really, it's interesting. Now, if it's going to end well, remains to be seen. I know, and especially with the amount of political tension between the United States, which is a very close ally of South Korea, and North Korea. So with all that going on and gross, I just pulled an apple out of my lunch bag, and it's got some paper towel on it. It's gross. I'm just going to put it, I'm not going to eat that apple anymore. I'm going to get a new apple. But enough about narrating my apple comment.
No, continue to narrate your apple comment.
Yeah.
That's what
well, I just went to the fridge to get another apple, and I'm going to eat this apple instead. And Martin's eating a pear, so.
This is an apple.
Oh, it's an apple. Okay, I thought it looked weirdly shaped. I thought it was a pear.
I eat
Granny
apple
Smith
too.
Okay.
I'm peeling up the sticker.
Wait. Shoot. I was going to show you my Apple phone and be like, Apple, but my Apple phone is what I'm currently talking to you on, so that wouldn't work. Anyways. So yeah, that happened. Some Britain, or I think in specific London, is trying to implement knife control. That's a thing, I guess.
Knife control.
I don't know much about that, but I mean, I'd be in a lot of trouble.
Let's ban batteries now. Let's ban baby aspirin.
Why specifically that?
I don't know. Can't you make a bomb out of baby aspirin or like cocaine?
Maybe. I don't know. I have
You
no
can make
idea.
something
I don't.
quickly. You
I'm
can
not
make
making a
something
lot of bombs and cocaine out of baby aspirin.
My
so I'm
God,
not
what did
the
you guys
one to
talk
talk.
about in the 5 seconds where I froze?
We were talking about bombs and cocaine.
How did you get to that?
I was talking about how London is supposedly going to implement knife control. And Neil brought up baby aspirin and how it can make like cocaine or bombs or something.
Because Neil was not there.
What? That's really loud. Jeez.
The apple?
Well,
Yeah,
wish
Jurassic.
I
It's like Jurassic Park with the biting into the apple. That's really weird.
well, I wish them good luck with that, even though I don't think it'll work.
Yeah. No. Are they at? Is that just a rumor? I keep trying to find whether or not that's actually happening. The mayor made a statement about knife control or
That'd be
something,
pretty dumb if they were trying to ban knives.
like pocket knives,
Pocket knives.
as in the one I'm holding.
Dude, we went to last week. We went to Six Flags. On Saturday, we went to Six Flags. We went, and like, so everybody there has those dumbass clear backpacks.
What?
Everyone who works there has the clear backpacks. And like they're just towels and
for?
shit. And I was like, if you wanted to hide a gun, you could just wrap it up in a towel and then put it in your backpack. Like, really nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's just so dumb. It doesn't make any sense. And to get in the
Why'd you
park,
put-
you have to go through a metal detector.
Why would you just in your waistband? Like, seriously.
But yeah, I know. It's so fucking dumb. It's so stupid. And if you like wanted to, like you couldn't even, if you wanted an AR-15 in it, you cannot fit it in one of those bags, just flat out.
Yeah.
Like, you
And
have
if,
to carry
if I
it
wanted to bring in
This is so dumb.
actually want to bring in air, you thought to be worried about metal detectors. Calling out for it. You're gonna walk in and open fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's stupid. I'm trying not to bring up the gun control conversation again, but I'm just so frustrated with it.
So fucking. At least like
Like-
it seems like the kids that got really angry, they're kind of like not popular anymore.
Yeah, because their 15 seconds of fame are up.
Yeah, I know, and they're probably still thinking that they're really famous. That's the
Like-
sad part.
As of our last podcast, they were on like second 13 of their 15 seconds of fame, and now that those are done, like no one, like their relevancy, just like all, like this is something that's possibly good to address. Like the shooter victims and the shootings themselves, people like our culture moves on like ridiculously fast. From
Yeah,
death.
it's like oh we care. Okay, fuck off.
Yeah,
Because our culture doesn't care. It cares about being outraged. If there's no one else to blame, no one really cares.
Mm.
Our
Yeah.
culture wants to blame someone, and they want to have this outrage like, oh my God, the people are trying to take our guns away, or the people are trying to give guns to everyone. Like, neither of those statements are true. And it's extremely irritating when you see
Yeah.
people, and they just really don't care. They just don't care. They care about getting outraged and all that crap. And
Yeah.
it's really annoying.
as of the last time we did this show, we had this conversation. And in the time since then, I've interacted with more and more people who have been just like, I had a conversation with someone and they were like, we just need to ban guns. And me and my friend looked at it and we were like, you're being sarcastic, right? Because we couldn't tell because we were joking around before
Mhm.
then. And he was like, no.
Yeah.
And we were like,
Fucking scary, dude.
it was a little uncomfortable actually because we like me and my friend probably got a little bit more aggressive about it than we should have, and he was like, dude, calm down, it's just an opinion, I don't care that much, like you don't need to shout statistics at me. It was like, okay, sorry man, but like the fact that people actually can think that bothers me. It's
Not to
like,
say, the other thing is, kids who are like communists, who want communism.
I have another story about that.
That's the scariest thing.
I'm just gonna turn off my camera. Because I want to lay. I don't want to keep having to hold it in place.
The
But I'm
same
still here.
the same exact day that happened, I had an argument with a different person about communism.
Dude, that's the scariest thing. People who want communism, legitimately.
He goes, well, communism could work. The Russians just did it wrong. And me and the same friend were like, boy,
Dylan had a very
Boy. We were like, boy.
I have a friend who,
Dylan had a very similar experience that he shared with me that was really, really dumb. And he called me and we laughed about how dumb the examples that this person gave were. And Dylan, do you want to tell that story?
Yes. So he was trying to give like how like we were getting into it about communism, and so then I mean it's so easy to refute all of communism's like all their things that they want. It's like,
yeah,
oh well, we could do it differently. It's like bullshit. Stalin, like once you get to that much power, you're not gonna do it. Like that's just bullshit. It's never happened.
Communism may
never
work with 10 people, but it
Yeah.
doesn't work with hundreds of millions.
yeah.
And like
Communism
the
is
thing-
like, communism's
was,
a group situation that can work if there's like 15 people in a room
Yeah.
for like a
He was
work
trying to
week.
make the point that like the failures of communism are lesser than the destruction of capitalism. I was like, let's say conservatively 100 million people have died for communism.
Very conservative.
That's some bullshit. Like, I doubt that. I mean, communism has not directly killed that many people. Or capitalism has not directly killed that many people. And then he started,
yes, it has.
he was like, oh no, capitalism or communism isn't great. It's not that great. But Leninism and Maoism, that's what we really need. I was like, if
Those are just
Lenin
options
is
of
your
communism.
good guy, I was like, if Lenin and Mao are the good people in the scenario, I don't want to be a part of anything you have to do. I was like, you know you're evil when Stalin is your henchman. And Mao is like probably worse than Hitler.
You have a sign. You have a sign in South Jersey Subway School that says, three most read books in the world are the Holy Bible and Harry Potter. And the third one is, what's it called? It's called Quotations from Chairman Mao. Because it was government mandated that everyone...
That everyone read it.
Yeah, it was government mandated that everyone had to read that book.
Like,
Which is so insane.
it bothers me that people can fall into that trap. But both of
Yeah,
those
people, like,
times,
It's
the
so
other
dumb.
thing is, like, I did not handle either of those situations the way I should have. Because instead of, like, calmly explaining the reasons why that doesn't work, I just kind of, like, flipped out and started screaming.
Yes.
Which is probably not your reaction when someone's, like, the reaction you want to have when someone is incorrect. Like, oh,
I definitely-
you're misinformed.
I definitely get why you'd be like that angry at someone because it's just so.
Well,
it's
yeah,
next
because the
level
problem is that it becomes there have become so many misconceptions about communism and socialism, and people seem to draw a correlation between. See, there's a difference between democratic socialism, like the Nordic countries, and even that, like, yeah, the quality of life in like the Nordic countries and European countries that use democratic socialism is good. Their economic growth is struggling because of the way the system works.
Also,
What?
democratic socialism has only been implemented there very short term so
That's-
far, right? So
Yeah, and let's just be very clear here. Even if, because democratic socialism, I think we can agree, isn't like evil, like big evil, like.
well,
Well,
I'd like to say democratic socialism is fancy dressed communism.
How do you
They're
mean?
very, very, very similar to the point where it's probably easier to point out the things that are like the very, very few things that are different. Like
name
there's-
the last time a startup, like a successful startup, came out of Sweden or like Nordic countries. Like Nokia is the last one, and it's like, who the hell cares about Nokia? And
Well, but
IKEA is the only big company
reason
that comes.
why you don't see these countries having any economic growth.
Yeah, they
Also-
only, like, whatever, Sweden doesn't even have any oil, and all they have is IKEA. It's like, IKEA is like over 100 years old. It's not a startup. That's like,
yeah,
that's
IKEA
the only
was
thing Sweden
back-
cares about, or
Yeah.
we care about Sweden. They don't have any startups. They just kind of sit around all day and don't make any money.
Yeah, and
And
how
now,
long has
now
how
all
long
this-
has Sweden implemented democratic socialism? It hasn't been very long, has it?
I mean, I think it has been a little while.
How long? Like, is a
I'm
little
not
while?
sure. Can someone look that up? I'm on my phone. Dylan, what are you on?
I'm on my phone too.
And Martin's on his. Dang it. Well, I don't-
Neil. Neil does it again, man.
Neil, your camera's already off. Just look it up.
I'm changing my headphones. One sec. Sorry, can you leave? Because I can barely like hear you guys. I'm sorry. I'm right now bouncing my phone on my knee so I can untangle my headphones and speak to you guys.
Okay. Basically, socialism and communism are two similar things. Like, they're not the same thing.
The end goal of socialism.
Yeah.
Martin, we were at school, and there's this person. We'll say her name is. Gonna make it up a name.
Yeah. Don't do what you did the last time. That was bad.
Or we'll say her name is.
What did last time?
He said the name of a kid like on an episode you weren't here. He said the real name of a guy like over and over and over again.
No, I said it one time. I know.
No, you said it over and over again. Dude, I still remember the name.
Did I? I thought for sure I only said it one time.
Who was it?
I'm not gonna say it again.
Oh,
They don't know how to use a computer besides playing Roblox, so they don't even know how to do it. Or anyone else.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I know who that person is.
Yeah. So then, so say their
Wait,
name
who
is
are you talking about now? Is the person
Well, say
that...
their name is DB, and so we asked her, we were like, DB,
Oh,
do you like socialism? And DB was like, well, I don't really like being social all that much, so no, not really.
Oh my god! That's great.
Was she being serious?
Yeah, dead serious.
Oh my god.
And then I told DB the basics of socialism. She was like, oh, I like that. I was like, and then I pointed out the basic flaws in it. She was like, oh.
Yeah, socialism is also a thing that if you look at it for 2 seconds, you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then if you think about it,
you just think critically for 4 seconds and you just suddenly realize that this could never be implemented on the big scale.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people our age fall into the trap of reading an article about it once and deciding, that's cool, I'm a socialist.
I think,
fall into the trap of...
A lot of it roots from, people not having a good community to be around, so they just replace it with being part of, I don't know, some fucking socialist group.
I think the biggest problem is, right now, the rate of depression is rising a lot, and a lot of people are a lot more unhappy with their jobs than they used to be. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot, there's just a lot of issues. And right now in our society, people like to get angry about things that are stupid things. So right now,
because let me tell you something, our society, and this goes for actually all human society in general, humans like to get in these groups and get outraged. Humans love being angry. And the thing is, it starts to get really irritating when you're talking to, all the time, I'll be talking to this one person, when I say this one person, I mean 20 different incidents. I'll be talking to this one person one-on-one, and we'll disagree on something, and we'll be arguing, and they'll be kind of quiet and collected and a little bit shy and not ready to fully voice their opinions because they're not sure if they're right and kind of question themselves and listening to me. And then you get another person and they get a little more confident. And then a whole group of people come and they all just start screaming insults. They don't even I cannot believe you just said it. That's not a fact. It happens all the time when you're arguing with someone, especially on a sensitive subject. They just get people and say, I can't believe you just said that. Or they ask obvious question I'll just give an example oh, are you insert basic thing here oh, are you black? Or oh, are you a woman? Oh, are you from Asia? Things like that. And they'll just say that just because, or oh, or do you live in that area? And they'll just insert things like that, and they'll act like they can dismiss your views just because you're not one of those basic things.
That's actually a lot. That's a lot like what happened with DB today.
Oh, really? Seriously? Yeah. Really? Don't tell me.
So DB today, was kind of next level crazy. Because DB already is pretty insane just off the bat.
DB thinks that she can. Well, let's not get onto that.
Yeah, we won't get into it. So we were talking, and she starts to go in about all this, like different genders and different sexuality types.
I hope she's talking about two of them.
And we were like, whatever, BH, if you like, or DB, we were like,
Damn it, Dylan.
BH.
Nobody. So DB was like,
Right, DB.
yeah, DB was like,
Yes, all right.
was like, well, you're just going all into it, and everyone else there was like, well, if you like them enough and you want to be good enough friends and you don't think they're just bullshitting you, then yeah, sure, call them whatever pronoun you want. But then another person was like, well, DB, it's the one retarded thing about all this is the demisexuals, where people who aren't sexually attracted until they get to know someone, because it's just like almost everyone.
That's not what sexual attraction is. Like if you become sexually attracted to someone over time through learning about them, and because it is a scientific fact that it's proven that after you like are close to someone and you're like continued exposure to a person can actually make you sexually attracted to them over time. But but yeah, that's just like a scientific fact. Like continued exposure to someone can slowly make you attracted to them, but I don't know what this whole demisexual thing is.
So then DB got so pissed at everyone because she was like, it's a real thing, and you don't understand, and you're just making fun of them, and they don't even believe it. And we're like, DB, we just think that some of these people are just making up terms so they can feel like they're part of something instead of actually being proud of something that they did. And she's like, you don't even understand. She's like, I hate you.
She said, I hate you?
Well, she was like, yeah. I don't think she was
seriously. She said, I hate you.
All day she'd been kind of pissed. Not just, but it was a lot like that. It was like just getting mad at us because we didn't agree with her. And we weren't being like aggressive at all.
People really need to learn to separate themselves from their opinions. Because the problem is when you start to like correlate yourself with a viewpoint, you run into a fundamental problem where then you can't change your viewpoint or opinion. And that's a big problem.
You're really
because
Neil, get us a little bit further away from your mic. You're really loud.
Go ahead. What? Is this better? What?
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know what you said. It's really hard to hear you guys. I don't know why the volume is so low.
Is
this
really
better?
Loud is what I said. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, okay. Is this better now?
Yeah, you're good.
Neil's in India.
Okay, so like I was saying, people tend to... Everything in Florida sucks. It's just a massive swamp. So basically...
Hey, Neil, remember the Disney World argument?
Oh, what was that? I forget.
It was at Life Without Instructions. And I was like, why can't you were like talking about all of the bad things about Disney as a company. I was like, why can't you just let people enjoy it for what it is, which is like a theme park? And you were like, fine.
Oh, well, that's just because I don't like letting people enjoy things.
Yeah. But at the time,
do you like going to Disney?
No, I really didn't like going to Disney.
I've been there.
It wasn't that fun.
I've been there when I was a really little kid.
Okay, continue what you were saying, Neil. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no problem. So, when you tend to, identify an opinion as yourself, like I was saying, you run into a fundamental problem where you can't change your opinion because it'd be like changing yourself.
Identity politics.
And that is such a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do this, it really makes you have emotional responses to logical questions, and that's where you just can't have arguments with people.
Yeah.
And when you have emotional responses to logical questions, if you have emotional responses to a logical question, you have really just crossed a line where it's impossible to argue with you, and it just it gets tough to talk to you as a person sometimes.
Mhm. Definitely.
So yeah, that's one of my biggest problems with arguing with people is that. And clearly it seems that DB had that exact response today.
Yes, definitely.
Because simply questioning the logic that is presented warrants a response of "I hate you." That is an extreme response.
Mm. It definitely was. A bit insane. They're just, yeah, I think people get too attached to what their basic ideals are and just refuse to change them. Same with the socialist fucking thing. It just becomes so ingrained in them that's like, oh, if I don't do this, like, this is the right thing, and if I don't do this, I'm the wrong person.
Yeah.
I'm the evil one if I don't believe in socialism.
And people seem to take socialism as this egalitarianism ideal. But people have to understand that to me, being equal isn't just everyone has the exact same things. Everyone is equal because they have
It means
have
everyone
no
has equal opportunity. Is
exactly.
Yeah.
Not everyone has equal materialistic things, and everyone thinks equally. Everyone has equal opportunity. And yes, there are different circumstances. Like, oh, your parents might not support you. Your parents do support you, but we can't control that. Okay, we can
Yeah.
only give you an equal stepping stone. That just means that everyone will have the same place, the same length. Like if there's a staircase you have to climb up, the steps will stay the same for everyone else. Yes, someone else might like make those steps slippery. Someone else might hold you down or boost you up, but we can't control that. We can only provide the stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to mess with anything else, you create. It may be you may be making people quote equal, but are you? But it's like stealing. Like Dylan always brings up this example. If you have $100 and you're in a room with a bunch of people, and all those people vote to take $50 from you, that's still stealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my basic argument against people who like socialism. It's like, it's that exact example. Just because you voted on it doesn't mean that's ethical. If you just voted to kill someone who's innocent, it still doesn't make it ethical.
No, it's completely fine. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
I tried to eat the apple, but
I
it
did
was
that
just
yesterday,
covered in
man.
this. I'll let you know
I do
later.
that every day.
But yeah, that's my basic argument against it. Is that
Yeah.
if someone brings up they want, so that's my main thing with Bernie
I mean,
Sanders
honestly,
too.
my
Like,
basic
people seem
argument
to
is
like
just
him, but
that it just doesn't work.
yeah, and we even had this Swiss guy visit our school this week, and he was very interesting, but he seemed to like a democratic socialist ideal.
Well, I mean, that makes sense considering where he's from.
That's why he liked FDR, because FDR implemented so many like democratic socialist ideals. Well, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't want democratic socialism a lot of the times.
I just tried to draw an upside down 5 on my arm, and it accidentally came out as the Nazi insignia, so now I have to cross
Oh my
it
god.
out. Oops.
Freaking Martin, back at it again.
I know, I just crossed it out.
Martin back at it again with drawing swastikas.
Now it looks like a clock with like upside down numbers, one of which is just a black blob.
Okay.
Yeah. High quality artistic ability right over here.
Yeah.
I was listening to this great podcast last night and this morning, and it was this guy who was a reformed skinhead.
Whoa!
Oh crap!
Is that Nathaniel?
Nathaniel, what are you doing?
I'm sitting there and not talking. Apparently. Oh, he's gone.
No,
Oh.
Nathaniel. I don't
Oh,
need to.
He just sent me a message saying his internet is being unstable and that he can't be on.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
just
there.
continue, Dylan.
Hmm?
Just continue about that reformed. You said he was a reformed skinhead.
So he was very, very interesting. And he was the same thing. He was just talking about people that want to be part of a community, and that kids just get caught up in it. They want to be part of something.
Yeah.
Even though it might resonate a little bit with them, it was very, very interesting. And I forget what he was saying. I don't think got to what got him out of it. But basically, he was just talking about how he only got into it because he just wanted something to be a part of, and he didn't feel like he could get that from anything else. But it was a very, very interesting podcast, though. Very good.
Yeah. I mean, people have to understand that for a lot of people in these gangs, the hatred is a second thought to them. It's really just wanting to belong, because people are not, like, a lot of people say they're leaders and followers, but I'm sorry, but most people are followers.
I
Yeah.
Because you have
disagree.
to understand.
I disagree
disagree?
with that. I disagree with that because it depends on the community you're going to. I think the reason why it seems like more people are followers is because things like cults and gangs attract those people more than anything else. It's harder to measure how many leaders there are because if you're a leader, you don't get pulled into something like that quite as easily.
Well, a lot of the times, even if you're a leader, like let's say in a religious organization, you're not even the leader. You're still following the scripture and the text.
Yeah, but depends on what your definition of leader is. Leader can be leading people. It doesn't mean it's your fundamental idea.
Well, I guess, but if we're gonna, I guess there's a difference if we're talking about like a if we're talking about this like an ideal of a leader, like what is a leader, arguing like that question itself, or I guess what the point I'm trying to make is that, and it's the same. I think the reason that I think that they're more followers is not because of what you said more about there being all this cult mentality and stuff. I mean, it just shows you why people like to be in groups. They like to feel like they're backed up by the other person.
Yeah.
The other people feel like they're backed up by the other people. And no one really wants to argue alone really deep down inside. Well, almost no one. Obviously, there are exceptions. But most people either want a neutral, most people just want other people who are on their side. And they will argue more vigorously if there are.
Yeah.
Because they don't feel comfortable being alone or even, and that's why you see in these situations there isn't like like I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like there's a reason that you don't see so many people, like you do see a lot of people, running to be the leader of this club or anything. I'm using a small scale example because obviously there's government and things like that. You do see a lot. I mean, but then you see the people that just don't want that on their hands. And I just think that, and I just think that people wouldn't be so accustomed to following if there were more leaders and followers. And I think that the reason, I don't say you're a born leader or you're a born follower, because I think that's just downright false. I think like 90% of it has to do with your upbringing. I think 95% of who you are has to do with your upbringing.
I think
honestly,
most of who you are has to do with, almost all of who you are.
Yeah, I'd be even inclined to say 99% of who you are has to do with your upbringing.
Yeah, other than like biological traits and such.
Yeah, exactly. If you wiped all my memories and then I grew up in another household, I'd be a completely different person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although there is one thing that genetics.
I was watching something, or no, it was a podcast, and it was basically this guy trying to explain that your political beliefs are in your genes. Like you pretty much do not have a choice.
That sounds wrong, but interesting.
It was very interesting.
Sound wrong.
And he did do some study on it. I think it might have been on people who were twins. I forget how he formatted the study. But
how does he get that unless?
Yeah, like how does he narrow down this is the genome that discovers if you're a Republican or a Democrat?
Yeah, like
because I think it was because the siblings that were twins were much more likely to have the same political beliefs as brothers and sisters.
But they also grew up in the
Well,
same
couldn't you just argue that
household.
that's because they're in the same environment?
Yeah.
No, well, he was saying that there were brothers and sisters who weren't twins, who were not as likely to have the same political beliefs.
Could that
Well,
just
yeah,
be a
but-
correlation and not a causation? And well, you
Oh,
could argue
but
that
Twins
you could argue that
are
twins.
together.
Sorry, I keep
more.
interrupting you, Martin.
I think we're trying to say things that twins are like together more and spend more time. Like
Exactly.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think that it's because
wait, wait.
twins are more likely, I think, to take the same experience and formulate the same opinion, while opposite people are more likely to take the same experience and form a different opinion.
Mhm.
Just because of, and it also has something to do with genetics, because there is something like, for example, intelligence is very genetic. Like an IQ is very genetic. Now, that doesn't mean knowledge is genetic. Like I'm sure the three of us didn't learn what we're talking about through our genetics. We maybe.
No, I was born with all of my knowledge.
I was born with knowing what Sudbury schools were,
Yeah.
and I was born with knowing what unschooling is.
I was just born with it.
I mean, that would have been helpful. I would have had more time to practice.
That would have been a lot more
explaining it to
helpful.
people. I would have had more time practicing how to explain it to people.
I can imagine baby Martin just like talking to people and debating with them about socialism.
Yes, that would be funny. Also, look, my arm is fancy.
Although that sounds more like a baby Neil.
Martin, looks like
Yeah.
you're gonna get cancer.
I'm trying to make it look like the symbiote, like Venom.
Oh, I recently watched this very interesting YouTube video where this guy.
Oh wait, I was gonna say something first. Though.
Go
Sorry
ahead.
to cut you off, but it was
No problem.
related to what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone fell. Basically, what was I gonna say? Fuck, I hate it. Wait, what were we talking about?
So okay, wait. We were talking about genetics
talking
and
genetically,
people
dude.
formulating the same opinions.
Oh yeah,
Martin. Okay.
people want to find reasons for things in biology so that they don't have to accept response. They want saying, "Oh, you're like this because your parents were like this." That's not a very satisfying answer. People want to hear that, "Oh, you were born this way and nothing could have changed that." Like,
Yeah.
I think
That's an interesting
mean-
hypothesis.
I think
Like you
people.
were born stupid and arrogant.
I think people who are depressed or anxious or like not gifted in certain areas or whatever, especially depressed and anxious, they want research to come up about it being a biological trait more than it actually is a biological trait.
Mhm.
And
Why do you think that those people in particular want that to be the case?
Because I think when you're depressed, your brain is going to do into two different. When you're depressed or anxious, your brain is probably going to go into two different modes. It's either going to go into a self-blame thing where it thinks everything that's ever happened to it is its own fault, or like everything that's ever happened to me is someone else's fault.
And obviously neither of those things are true.
And neither of those things are can be true statistically speaking.
Yeah.
That literally is impossible for either of those things to be the definite absolute.
Yeah,
thing
it's
to be happening.
statistically impossible.
Yeah, but I think people don't want to admit that. I think people who are depressed, so there's two different ways to look at being depressed as well. Some people say depressed makes you illogical. Depression makes you illogical. And I think for some people, depression makes you illogical. And I think for some people, the example I heard used was depression is it's like a computer program kind of thing. Like, if you have a computer program, but you take out one variable, all the logic is still going to be there. But without that one variable, it doesn't do anything.
That's
some
that's
people-
a very good point.
Yeah, some people say that depression is like that. Like, the logic is all still there, but if you don't have that one thing that's there to motivate it, then you still have logic, but it doesn't do anything because you don't care anymore.
You know, Martin, you brought me into a very I wanted to bring up, since we're on the topic of psychology, I wanted to bring up another thing that's very interesting and related to this, psychology in general. And that's the fact that, here, I'm going to present a very simple statistic, and then I want to branch it off into a topic that I think is very interesting. So the majority of people think that they're above average drivers.
Yeah. There's a study that's done that is 4 out of 5 college professors think they're above average at teaching.
Exactly. So, and obviously that's statistically impossible. Like,
Yeah.
I know most things we say, I know a lot of the times we say impossible, we really mean improbable, since technically anything's possible. But this, unless we're going to deny the universal laws of math, then it is impossible for most people to be above average drivers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, and it actually, there's another statistic that shows something even more shocking. The people that tended to say that they were above average were actually below average.
Yeah. Oh, I was just reading about this. So people who are below average at things tend to think they're above average, and people who are above average at
Tend to think they're below average, yeah.
No, don't tend to think they're below average. Tend to think everyone is the same skill set as them. Like
Seriously?
Yeah, that's a proven thing. I just read about this over the weekend.
Wow.
So
Now obviously this is statistics. There are going to be some people that are incredibly arrogant, but actually have the intelligence to back it up.
Well, yeah.
And then, of course, there are going to people, there's always statistical anomalies.
Yeah. And, like, just because some people are, like, a good majority of people are the same doesn't mean everyone's the same.
Exactly.
But, yeah, it's interesting to think that people who are better at things think everyone, like, they're average, and people who are worse at things think that they're better than everyone. So it's funny to think about it like that, because I think it's your it's your brain trying to be like, oh, don't worry, you're average. Like, you're nothing special. And I think it's also like your brain being, oh, you're great. Don't try and question your abilities. Like, I think there's also a correlation between talent and creativity and mental health issues. And that might have something to do with it as well. If you're, like, a particularly gifted person, you might have that kind of self-hate, like, oh, I'm no better than anyone else kind of attitude. And that's really interesting. And I think people probably also want to find a biological reason for that. But I think it also might just be that pain and sadness helps to, one second, help. Like,
look, Martin, what you're saying really points to a bigger issue. And that's fact about, what I mean by that is that the whole thing where people want it to be a biological explanation for what they do. It really just puts it onto a bigger issue where people don't want the blame to be on them.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
say. They never want to claim responsibility. Exactly.
It's kind of like, and you can't really blame people for that, because that's human nature.
Exactly.
Like, people don't want to accept responsibility, and I think, yeah, there are some people who accept more responsibility than others, and, like, vice versa, and there's definitely exceptions. But overall, humans are, like, they want to self-preserve for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think when you're depressed, and if you, depending on what you believe, you're fairly illogical. So it's easier to illogically blame things.
It's easier to come to illogical conclusions about most things.
Yeah. And I think it's, like, depression is such an interesting subject, because right now we're in the middle of the biggest depression rise, mental health. Like, mental health issues
middle-aged male suicide rates are insane.
Yeah. I think it's 80% of suicides are men, right?
Is it? That's insane.
I'm almost positive
the
of that.
school district that I live in, it has, like, a freaking enormous depression rate, and it's, like, completely normal for, like, a significant, I don't know the exact percentage, but a significant amount of students are just on antidepressants, and it's, like, normal, because my dad was talking to one of his friends, and she was, like, surprised that I wasn't on antidepressants. Just, like,
seriously?
Yeah. And
Also-
it was like normal just to go to the doctor. Here's some antidepressants.
That's incredibly concerning. Well, it's part of what I like to call the Adderall culture. It's part of the Adderall culture, where your kid doesn't want to sit down for like freaking 8 hours and just listen to people lecture them. Well, he must have focusing problems. Put him on Adderall.
Yeah, like I think something that a lot of people need to realize is maybe you should evaluate society as a whole instead of trying to fix a problem with, like, the government is trying to make money off of a situation that people care about right now, because people are going to accept that because they don't want to realize the flaws in their own
Wait, how do you mean by that?
study. What do you mean? With which thing I said?
Like you said, the government's trying to make money off of people's, what?
Depression. Like,
Oh, right, with Big Pharma.
yeah, depression is on the rise, so the government's like, okay, yeah, let's sell antidepressants to people and we'll make more money. And that's business. That's like, that makes sense. But people aren't realizing that, hey, maybe we shouldn't just be shoving pills down our children's throat.
Well, the Adderall culture doesn't just come from Adderall. This Adderall culture originally came from the whole culture that came from a while back. And that's the antibiotic culture, where you just every time you have a little sniffle, you go to the doctor, you prescribe you some antibiotics.
No, there's some people that like just have antibiotics like all before they're 18, 30 times in their life, which is like incredible.
I'd only ever been on antibiotics once, and that was when I had like a severe infection.
I was on antibiotics for 2 years straight for Lyme disease.
That sucks. You don't have Lyme disease too, right?
I did, but I didn't have to take it for 2 years straight. I only had to take it for like maybe a month.
I heard that Lyme disease is actually just when doctors don't know what the hell it is.
No. Lyme disease, so the thing with Lyme disease is it's fairly new to be recognized in humans, and there are a lot of doctors who are extremely skeptical of its existence, because usually when doctors can't figure out exactly what something is, they like to say it doesn't exist at all. And there's actually another thing one of the youths who's been on in the past, Emma, has, which is CRPS, which is another newer thing, where basically the research into what directly causes it and how to fix it is new, and most of the world still sees it as fake. Now, Lyme disease is starting to become more culturally recognized. I actually am lucky enough to have one of the leading Lyme disease specialists in the area to be like my primary care doctor already. So that's nice. So originally I've tried other things other than antibiotics because he's not big on medication. And
well, that's good, because antibiotics are so overused. And antibiotics destroy your gut microbiome. They destroy not only the bad bacteria, but the good bacteria. There's so many things.
But what he did was he had me on probiotics as well to take.
Okay, well that's good.
So basically, I love my doctor. He's very, very smart, and I actually trust him, unlike most doctors in the world. But I think there's definitely a medication. Like, everyone wants there to be a reason for things, when sometimes things happen. Like, sometimes there's reasons for things that we need to solve without pills. And also, there's actually a great song called Limiter by the Descendants, which is about ADHD medication. And it's about, the line that particularly struck me was, "Whatever happened to drug-free youth?" And it's like, it is kind of crazy to see
really
in the last 30 years how we went from this is your brain on drugs to, hey, this is your brain on drugs. It's a lot better, I promise.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And it's actually weird because people are still so against what they call drugs. It's like, oh, Little Billy's on Adderall? Oh, wait, Little Billy smoked the devil's weed?
You mean the devil's lettuce?
Oh, sorry, Satan's salad, the devil's lettuce? Lucifer's
The
lettuce.
the devil's weed.
The devil. It's Satan's spinach or
Wait,
Lucifer's
wouldn't that mean it
lettuce.
would be something good because weed is bad? It's like a double negative.
I think also, I don't know. If you've watched this show for any number of time, you'll probably know that I don't think things should be illegal.
Well, yeah, because it just drives it underground and makes it more dangerous.
Yeah. So, like, and people in arguments like to bring up, well, you're only saying that because it doesn't, like, you could, like, because you already disagree with it. But, like, I'm not, I think abortion is wrong. But by no means do I think it should be illegal, because if abortion was illegal, like, that would not be good. That'd be very bad.
Like
and
in Ireland, I agree with you, Martin. Like, I don't know. I'm still making up my mind on abortion, but it definitely shouldn't be illegal.
I'm the same as Dylan.
Places in like places
I'm
in
gonna,
like Dublin in Ireland, like people have to go very far away and like go on secret ships that like take people to England.
Oh my God! Thank God the coat hanger days of America are over.
oh, don't even say that.
It has to be said, Martin, for educational reasons.
Everyone knows that. You don't have to bring it up.
All right, I'm just saying, in the olden days, I'm not going to say it completely, but...
No, we know. We get it. No.
Coat hangers would be used for certain things, like abortions, and it could kill the woman because of blood loss and infection. But yeah, let's just end that pretty picture.
Yeah, breaking news. Don't stick coat hangers
don't
inside
stick coat hangers at the place that you pee.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. Anyways.
Don't stick coat hangers in you.
Just no. Coat hangers don't need to be inside of you in any way,
Unless
shape, or form.
it's food, don't put things inside you. Dylan, I swear to God.
Yeah. You almost walked into a really bad joke. I'm going to sidestep it, though. Anyways, basically,
any sentence that says inside of you, you just have to not say it.
So I've also done a lot of thinking about it. And once I managed to get past my brain telling me, oh, well, I'm not a girl, so I can't have an opinion, I got to the point of
you're
saying,
not a girl, so you can't have what?
An opinion.
Oh, that's so dumb. I cannot stand that.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, it's okay. Calm down. But
I hate that so much.
Yes, I know. But I did get to the point of saying I can think something's morally wrong without telling someone else or trying to actively prevent someone else from doing it. But at the same time, I'm still allowed to voice my opinion of why I think that particular thing is wrong. But I don't want to share my views on this because this is a heated topic and I don't particularly want to make anyone angry, even if, like, for me, that's particularly strange to say because of, like, the amount of controversial
and let's be clear here.
cover.
If any of you do agree with any of us on anything, that doesn't mean we hate you or you hate us. We don't like you, because remember, I was just talking about how there's a difference between your emotions and what's you and your opinions.
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, I got really angry at that guy when he disagreed with me. And I realized after that should not be my stock response, because if you're going to if you're going to try and show someone your point of view on a situation, you shouldn't show them that point of view by screaming at them, because they're not.
Yeah, because the problem is, Martin, all of us have been spoiled by the amount of people who have come into our arguments screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
So now our default response is that.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you the amount of times I've gotten into a screaming argument with someone, and I mean, it's insane. I just got into a screaming argument yesterday.
Yeah. I try and avoid screaming arguments because I like to observe arguments more than participate in them, because I like to learn more than I like to teach other people things. Even if I'm not learning, like, I just like to learn new viewpoints. But actually, I think we should go to break because it's about 5 o'clock, and this is a good place to stop. And I will not be coming back on after the break. I will have to be going, so you can see Neil and Dylan have their shenanigans play out. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's going to be real interesting. Dylan and I uncheck.
Without me to censor you. Oh boy!
Yeah, you have no idea what's in store.
It's gonna be great. So stick
The
around.
conversation
Thank
that
God
Dylan
we
and
didn't
I
have a
had.
topic this week, man.
Oh, Dylan, remember when we had our Common Sense podcast that we deleted?
Brian saved that on his computer.
That's great. I want to watch that again.
No, he said he saved it so that he could blackmail
Okay,
whoever ran for
okay.
president.
Okay, so we're going to break. Bye, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode.
All right, goodbye, Martin.
Yes.
See-
This is yet another critical week for the president's foreign policy. North Korea is vowing to take critical steps toward denuclearizing. The U.S. is promising not to oust Kim Jong-un. But there are still steep hurdles ahead of next month's summit. And the president is making waves by talking about jobs in China, a country he needs to help pressure North Korea. With less than a month until that historic face-to-face with Kim Jong-un, the White House setting the stakes.
President Trump will be able to size Kim Jong-un up and see whether the commitment is real.
As U.S. officials assess that commitment, North Korea announcing over the weekend plans to dismantle a nuclear testing site later this month. The facility located less than 100 miles from China. Explosives will be used to collapse the tunnels, and journalists, including those from the U.S., will be allowed in to witness it. And while there is skepticism because it's believed that site is not fully functional, President Trump tweeted, "Thank you, a very smart and gracious gesture." Meanwhile, it's another Trump tweet that's causing controversy this morning after the president seemed to support bringing back jobs to China, tweeting, "President Xi of China and I are working together to give massive Chinese phone company ZTE a way to get back into business fast. Too many jobs in China lost." It comes after the U.S. government penalized the Chinese telecommunications company last month for violating sanctions against North Korea and Iran. The move, seen as an about-face from Trump's America First mantra, comes after the president threatened a trade war with China, saying trade wars are good and easy to win. The president later feeling the heat from critics, taking to Twitter once again. China and the United States are working well together on trade, but be cool, it will all work out.
And Kristen, on another subject, people still talking about the White House staffer who apparently, according to a leak, insulted Senator John McCain. She had a conversation with Meghan McCain. What's the latest there?
Well, this continues to loom over the White House. The White House, Savannah, has refused to acknowledge or apologize for the statement of staffer Kelly Sadler, who said last week of Senator McCain, according to 3 sources, he's dying anyway. And now that strategy may be backfiring after McCain's daughter, Meghan McCain, said in a statement to ABC News over the weekend, Sadler told Meghan she would publicly apologize for the comments. Now, there was bipartisan outrage that mounted with Senators Lindsey Graham and Bernie Sanders just among those calling for a public apology. So the question today, will the White House back down? So far, there's no indication of that, and Meghan McCain says she's assuming it'll never happen, Savannah and Hoda.
Well, one thing we do know is that the lawns will be mowed today. Kristen, thank you very much. Yes.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.
Hello, everyone. We're back from the break. I hope you enjoyed that. Martin's gone, as you can see and hear. So now Dylan and I are left unchecked with the podcast, which is a big mistake. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. All right, Ian,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you because, I don't know, the whole thing that you were saying that you had a debate with someone about Sudbury.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is going to get good. All right. So for those of you who don't know, so you probably know what unschooling is if you're listening to that podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, but Sudbury schooling is basically like, it's a democratic free school where in concept, kids can just lay around and do nothing and no one forces them to do anything and the kids are equal to the adults. But what really happens is a growing learning experience of, I don't have time to get into it, but it's like if you're doing unschooling, it's like unschooling, but with a bunch of other kids and people who can support you in a building where you vote democratically on all the school rules and policies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I explained that all right in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, so basically what the whole argument was is that I was basically just explaining. We were basically explaining Sudbury schools and stuff like this, and she kind of got into this whole like, what do I want to say? It was kind of like it got into the point where she was saying, because we got to the point where I think everyone in the conversation agreed that Sudbury schooling was better than public schools for the emotional health of the children, even for the learning of the children, which is to the surprise of a lot of people, and for basically future career options and opportunities and socializing. And no, that's not socialism, BB, despite what she said. But so basically, I said how, then she said, well, it really doesn't matter because it's all about what the parents will do. Whatever happens at the school, the kids will come home and the parents will either build it up or tear it down. So it really doesn't matter. If the Sudbury school builds up their confidence, then it doesn't matter because the public school will tear it down. I mean, the parents will tear it down. And I said, well, we can't control the parents. She said, yeah, but then it doesn't matter. I said, well, let me explain it in this way. I said, I'm going to explain it in a math question. Mm-hmm. So if you go to a Sudbury school and you get a +1 to your confidence, your total is +1. Then you get home and your parents tear you down. You get -1. Your total score is now 0. Now, let's say you go to a public school. And let's say it doesn't matter what your day's like, or compared to a Sudbury school, like Dylan, as you went to public school, you had a pretty bad experience with it. You said that you had a panic attack in a hallway when you were trying to get your stuff out of your locker, right? So how would you say your average school day was?
My average school day?
Yeah.
Wait, you mean at Sudbury or at public school?
No, public.
Just boring. So much going on. I mean,
would you say it built up your confidence at all, or?
No, not at all.
Did it tear it down, or was it just nothing?
I mean, by then you're just like so brainwashed not to fucking have your own thoughts. It doesn't really matter.
So let's say that the net result of going to the public school for your confidence and your self-determination is 0. Because if you want to argue that it is +1, you just can't. Because how can you build self-determination by other people telling you what to do?
Yes.
And I could get into a whole conversation about why Sudbury schools build it up, but we can save that for later, especially since I think we already had a whole episode a while back on Sudbury schools. I think. So you can, look through the archives and see if you can find that. But there was a whole, there's another show, For the Love of Learning, and I'm pretty sure there was a whole Sudbury schooling episode that I was on. So basically, there was, like I was saying, so let's say the net result cannot be +1 because you cannot build your own self-determination and will and positive attitude, basically your self-learning skills and your confidence through someone else. That's the exact opposite of what they are, right? So, let's say the net result is 0. And yes, there are people who can teach themselves this regardless of where they are, but we can't control that either, so we have to disregard that. Mm-hmm. So if the net result from going to the public school is 0, and then you go home and your parents tear you down, and you -1, the net result from the Sudbury school is 0, and the net result from the public schooling is -1. Yeah. Therefore, Sudbury schools are better by default. And that's very simple, very concise, and in my opinion, almost flawless logic, right? Mm-hmm. Like that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. If the parents tear it down, they can't tear down as much. It's simple. So, you know what her response was?
What?
Completely ignored it and said, "But the parents will tear it down." I said, "Did you just listen to what I just said?" Mm-hmm. So yeah. So he's like, "Oh, I wasn't listening." I was like, "Are you serious?"
Bullshit, man.
Yeah.
I know.
But yeah, so that was. I'm pretty proud of the argument that I made. It makes a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense. I like that one.
And I just pulled it off the top of my head, so I'm really glad I made that argument.
You're just a freaking genius, Neil.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Could you just compliment me more?
You're just amazing.
Thank you.
Mhm.
But I even argue with people at Sudbury, like this. Like I got told that I have a quote. I was in school meeting at school at school down here, and someone said, "Well, that's really homeschool like mentality that you're having there." So then I, of course, had to argue with them, saying that I think a homeschooling mentality, just to say that, is because I think a Sudbury mentality, like they're saying, like, oh, I don't know if like a Sudbury kid from like birth would say, I'm like, a Sudbury kid is whatever a Sudbury kid wants to be.
Mhm.
A Sudbury kid is getting up to argue what a Sudbury kid means.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a whole thing with that. Like the whole point of Sudbury kid is getting up to argue with other Sudbury kids about what a Sudbury kid is.
Mhm.
And also to push for their beliefs to make the school a better place for everyone and self-direct themselves to make a career.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That is a Sudbury mentality.
yeah, a Sudbury mentality is debating what a Sudbury mentality is, because you have to debate in JC, which is our judicial committee, and school meeting, which is where we decide literally everything that happens at the school.
Yeah. You do need to be able just to hold your beliefs down.
Yeah.
It's very important. I don't think you can succeed at Sudbury School.
So anyways, do you have any more crazy, because Dylan always comes back, because he argues with people a lot online, and he always comes back with crazy stories about what people's reasoning is.
All right, let's see. Did I talk to anyone weird? I had like a few people. Well, like the weird people in my life are people online. Brian, who works at the Sudbury School, and Uber drivers I meet. Oh, wait, Neil, did I tell you about the guy that doesn't believe in evolution?
Oh my God, no, who?
No. So that's me going through my three places I know where I meet crazy people. So this guy is an Uber driver. So we were talking and we were getting like it was very interesting, and he was saying that he was a devout like I think a fundamentalist Christian.
Oh dear God.
So we started to talk, and so he seemed a little hesitant, like he was holding something back, and I was like, don't feel like you'd offend me by saying anything. I'm not that type of person that would get offended and hate you for anything you say. And he's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's good. I was a little nervous. He was like, I wasn't sure. Then after that, he's like, you know what's funny, man? Or what did he say? Like I was saying, I'm not so sure that God exists. And
Yeah.
so then he's like, well, how do I have the ability to do this? Like open his hand, have opposable thumbs. And it was kind of, he asked it in a rhetorical question because I was going to say, well, evolution, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, people who think that evolution exists are just the funniest people. And he's like, people that think that we evolved from apes, that's just hilarious.
That's incredibly false. We did not evolve from apes.
I was like, what? It's like, what, you don't even have any evidence for that. So
we didn't evolve from apes in any way, shape, or form. We evolved from Neanderthals.
Yeah,
and you can actually prove this because some people have more Neanderthal DNA than others.
Yeah, and the weird thing was, he was like on Ancestry.com all the time. He was talking about how he loves Ancestry and how he's a geneticist. Like
a geneticist?
An amateur geneticist.
Yeah, emphasis on the amateur.
Yeah, he's like retired. He just does it for fun. It's not like he does it for a living. And I was like, what? This is so weird. Like, if anyone should know that, evolution exists.
So what was his reasoning? Was it just we didn't evolve from apes?
I don't know. It was like that God created us. That's why.
That's so dumb.
Because the
Here's what I don't understand. Now, this is probably the thing that most gets me when I debate with religious people. They say this.
They take Bible as complete fucking truth.
Yeah, but also this is the biggest thing, right? So most people, when they try to argue the existence of God, they try to argue these like really philosophical things like, why does the universe exist and all this, and that doesn't make any sense. Let me tell you why. Because first of all of them can be disproven. But second of all,
No, I
we'll
remember
get to
what his
that maybe
reasoning
another
was.
time.
I remember what his reasoning was. But finish what you were saying.
yeah. So when people, let's say just for example, you're like a philosophical, way out there argument for like the morality and philosophical regarding, like, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know, like people argue the
Yeah.
philosophical, like, why are we here? Let's say just for example that your philosophical, hypothetical mind game argument, 'cause that's what they are, and there's nothing wrong with it, but that is what they are. Argument is real, and it makes sense. That's still, here's the part that I don't get. That still doesn't prove that your version is right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why aren't the Islam? Why are the Muslims right? Why aren't the Jews right? Why aren't the Christians right? Why aren't the Catholics right? Why aren't the Hindus right? Why aren't they, like, we could play this game all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't the ancient Egyptians right?
Yeah, that's why. So I really liked. I was listening to Sam Harris and his argument about God and why Christian God is so dumb is because just imagine it like there's this God who has his son killed for the sins of beings he made to like sin. Like let's say he created us to sin as part of our just being, and he killed his son for something that he did. Like that's really
what
crazy.
bull.
That's really
dick.
crazy. And then the other thing is, if he is the one true God, he's done a horrific job at telling everyone that.
I know. Like,
And
if
making
I
them
were
believe
God, I'd just write in like
logic
fire in the sky,
Bible,
I'm God.
If he has complete power and it's God's will that the Bible is all true, he's done a horrific job at having no loopholes in an omniscient being. If he knows everything, he should know that there's like in the Bible, it definitely calls for the death sentence of Jews. Yet one of the biggest ongoing themes of the Bible is repentance. So where do you get to repent if you're gay? Which, I mean, I'm not saying you should repent if you're gay, but in the Bible, I forget what passages, but it almost explicitly calls for
you shouldn't have to, like, there's nothing more about homosexuality. I don't care who you want to have relations with. It affects me in no way whatsoever.
Yes.
Like, it shouldn't even be a moral question.
It's so messed up. And he's done, I mean, what about all the people in India just by chance, they don't get to go to heaven? I mean, it even says, I mean, this is in Dante's Inferno, that all the people who were born before Jesus are just in hell or purgatory.
I know, that's horrible.
They just never get to go to, like, what? God did that. That's all God's fault. How are we supposed to
Yeah, why is God such a douche? Like, he's basically just saying, since you guys didn't know better, you get tortured for all eternity.
Exactly. It's like that's his fault that they're in hell, essentially, because he never told anyone what the right thing to do was.
Not to mention, even if everyone knew the morality is so wrong. Let's say that there's a husband and a wife. They're walking around. The husband is a Christian. The wife is an atheist. This robber comes out, shoots the wife, harms the husband. The wife goes straight to hell. And then the robber on his deathbed has to repent to Jesus. And then he goes to heaven with the husband whose wife he murdered, who's in hell, and the husband and the robber spend with each other with heaven for all eternity. But the husband can't hate or dislike the robber because there's no sin or hatred in heaven. Therefore, all free will is taken away, especially since Christians say that sin is a byproduct of free will. So that means that there's no free will in heaven, since there's no sin in heaven, and sin is a byproduct of free will, there's no free will in heaven. And basically, the robber and the husband are just mindless robots who have to love each other.
Yeah.
While his wife,
I never got
perfectly
that.
normal wife, is burning in hell for all eternity.
Just nice to each other. Why couldn't we just do that here?
I know. And you're like, oh, well, sin is a byproduct of free will, so there's no free will in heaven?
Yeah, couldn't God just do that? Or is
yeah, and if there is sin free will in heaven, why is there even a heaven?
Or is going through, oh, well, here's another thing. If Earth is just a vetting process to see what souls are good or not, which God created everyone.
But also, isn't God all-knowing?
He made a vetting system for the beings that he created.
And that he knows all about because he's omniscient?
It's like so freaking dumb.
There's
then
so
in
many
heaven-
logically.
In
It's
heaven,
so
they
dumb.
don't have free will, obviously, because there's no sin, and that's the only reason that there's sin, because it's a byproduct of free will. So it's obviously not a free will in heaven. So why not just take away the free will that we have on Earth?
Exactly.
and make
It's
everyone
so
kind and happy to each
freaking
other?
stupid.
Exactly. That's why it just doesn't make any sense. And then, like, yet again, I mean, God has done a terrible job at making the Bible look like it's any amount of truth. Like, or there hasn't been any document.
Also, God has done a terrible job. If this is a vetting process, God has done a terrible job. If I'm born into a low-income family in a bad neighborhood, I have a much less chance of getting into heaven than some guy in a rich, classy neighborhood with supporting parents.
If I'm born in Mumbai, I have almost no chance of going to heaven, and he chose that.
Yeah, because if you're born in literally any country other than a pure Christian country, you have a very low chance of going to heaven.
Yeah.
Although there are it's a low percentage, but there are like a surprising amount of like Christians in India.
There are.
India's like a melting pot of religions. It's insane.
Yeah.
But that being said, statistically speaking, you have almost no chance of going to heaven if you're in India.
Yeah, what do you have? You probably have like a 1 in 7 chance. Or maybe a little bit more than 1 in 7 of going to heaven, just predetermined on where you're born.
I think it's a 1.2% of all Indians are Christian.
1.2, yeah. Well, that's nothing.
And yes, that's of 1 billion people, so there are a lot of Christians there. But statistically speaking, if you're born into a place with that many people, then you have the same statistical chance.
Mm-hmm.
So, and forget that. What if you're born in freaking China, where the only religion you can worship is the state-sponsored churches, where Jesus hangs on the picture of Jesus is on the same wall and same level as the picture of the chairman of the Communist Party. Seriously.
Mm.
You have literally no chance.
The guy's reasoning, the Uber driver's reasoning of why
we have thumbs, therefore my version is right.
Well, his reasoning was that humans, like, what are the chances that humans ever existed? Because it's such a
the universe. I'm sorry, but the infinite universe.
I was like, yeah, you are very lucky. That's why you should appreciate that you're alive.
No, actually, there was a really good logical argument made where basically there's this guy on YouTube called Cosmic Skeptic. He is an incredibly smart person. Like, his intelligence is next level. So he basically he took the argument that you're exactly saying, and he said, what do you say?
You're just gonna worship him.
Yeah.
So smart, man.
He's so smart. I love him. I'm gonna take him home one day.
Neil.
If anyone's God, it's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so basically he made this incredibly logical and amazing argument where he said that you're basically saying what you're saying is illogical because you're trying to apply your preconceived notion of chance. Because basically what you're doing is that you're saying that when the cosmic, dice roll or whatever, you're trying to say that the chance is, if it rolls a 6, then it basically, what are the chances of that or whatever, like something like that. But the chances aren't that because, if there were, let's say the cosmic dice rolled a 3, and there was, because we don't know what the limits of life are. We don't know if this is the only kind of life that exists. Mm-hmm. It could be magma monsters that breathe hydrogen.
Yeah.
But let's say that these magma monsters that breathe hydrogen exist, and they're like, we're so lucky that we exist, and there's no other way that life could exist. And what is life even? You could say that a star is alive in a way. Sentience is just a consequence of us being more intelligent so we could survive better.
Yeah.
You're basically trying to apply your preconceived notion of luck and the way it's supposed to be, quote unquote, to us. And I'm sure the star, let's say some random star said, what are the chances? Well, I mean, let's say, the chances are low for this very specific thing, but the chances for something to happen are high, 100% almost.
Mhm.
The point is that something happens. The point is that when something happens, whatever is in that situation will say, what are the chances that this happened? Well, yes, very low. But the point is something was going to happen and it just happened to be you. And if the cosmic dice rolled a 2 or a 3, the other beings would probably ask themselves, if they even had the capacity to, what were the chances that we got it? That's why God exists.
Mhm.
Oh, also, by the way, well, we can't prove this. I don't know if God has like an alien Jesus, but if we're to believe the Bible as it's written, or even interpret it, because people say you have to interpret the Bible. But even if we're to interpret the Bible, all aliens are going to hell.
Yeah, it is. I think that
So
is there.
thanks God.
Yeah, God doesn't. God is.
Unless there's like a specific text in the Bible that says, oh, and also there's alien Jesus.
Yeah, God is very much like evil. It seems.
God's a freaking racist.
Like he only wants us to go to heaven, but even then, that he created us, like, had other life. I mean, there's most likely other life in the universe. Who created that? It seems like he only created us in the Bible. Maybe, like, we should just worship the devil. Maybe the devil is just, like, just better. At least when, someone's trying to kill you and torture you forever, they don't try and
I mean,
claim
if
hell.
if hell is nothing but sin, then there's free will in heaven. And they say there's eternal punishment and suffering, but to freaking Christians, eternal punishment and suffering is like having, to some of them, it's like doing things like having unprotected sex or being homosexual.
Yeah.
And I think that's the pinnacle of evil or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry,
Just so
protected
dumb.
sex, I meant.
This is like, so dumb, because at least when someone's trying to torture you forever, there's like, at least they have the courtesy of not trying to make you believe that they're
At least they have the courtesy of not turning you into their mind slaves.
Yeah. Like God tortures people, and then at the end is like, oh, by the way, everyone, I'm the good guy here. It's like, what?
Yeah, you asshole. Like, if God does exist, I think we should pray to Satan to come and save us.
Yeah, Satan. At least Satan is like, I mean, at least Satan doesn't try and pretend that he's the good guy.
Yeah, Satan's straight up.
And I like in the Bible too.
And you know what? All the crap that we hear about Satan is from God. Yeah, that's not biased at all.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we? Maybe there's like another side to the story that we're not hearing.
Yeah, honestly, if the God that the Christian God exists, seriously, Satan, come and tell us your side of the story, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe he just doesn't want to do all of that because so many people are going to hell that he's like, well, I'll just let all those people come to hell and we can party and have a great time with free will.
Mm-hmm.
And then God...
There are a few times in the Bible where it talks about there might being another God, where like there's multiple gods.
Really?
I think in the first, like, there's definitely a few times in the Bible where God refers to himself as us. Like there might be more than one eternal being.
Well, part of me thinks that that's just supposed to be like some I think part of me thinks that people thought like the people who wrote the Bible thought that would be like really cool and like meta.
It's like 20 AD. Dude, this would be so meta, man. Let's just add this in, and then people in like 2,000 years might think there's more than one God, even though there's no God, man. It's just like a bunch of teenagers who wrote the Bible. Just like Joseph Smith, who wrote his name's Joseph Smith, right? Neil? Neil left me, everyone. I don't know where he is.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments, are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lady Liberty.
And this is Miro Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.